If you've always been the chubby one in your friendship group, you've always binged and restricted, you don't know how to lose weight because no one's ever properly taught you the science and properly made you understand why it works, then I'm going to talk about it today. Just a caveat though, I am not a nutritionist, I am not a doctor, so take this advice with a pinch of salt. I just love to do a lot of research around what I'm putting into my body and nutrition and the gut. I actually put all of that knowledge into practice last year, from always being the chubby one in the friendship group to yo-yo dieting to always binging and restricting to now losing 9 kilos, and genuinely my skin's super clear, I feel incredible in my body, and it's the first time I can finally say I'm confident. And that's because I put everything that I learned into practice and finally figured out how to intuitively eat and how to lose weight sustainably and keep the weight off so I'm not constantly yo-yo dieting. If you're new to this channel, hi, I'm Elena and I'm the founder of the Hotter, Richer, Fitter community, where I empower women with tips, tricks, routines, habits, everything like that, and to break them down into easy, repeatable steps so that you can live your hottest, richest, fittest life. When you are your hottest self, your fittest self, you will end up being more confident and therefore more opportunities will come your way. You will definitely be richer and you will be able to live your best life. And who doesn't want to live their best life? I simply don't know, but society and the world just makes it so hard, especially when it comes to eating. So let's talk about it. I'm eating the most random meal today, so I thought I would give the first tip of the day. So one thing that I've been researching thoroughly at the moment is how to eat for your gut health. There's been a lot of research, especially by the brand Zoe, which are the gut health specialists, and there's been so much research out there that if you have a healthier gut, there's like a long nerve called the vagus nerve between your gut and your brain. And essentially, the healthier your gut is, the healthier your brain is. You'll be able to get more clarity in the way you think. You'll be able to focus on drowning out the food noise, focus on being happier. There's so many things that are connected to your gut, and that's why I think it's the most important to start with at the beginning. So what they say to get a healthy gut is to try and eat 30 different plants every single week, and that includes a variety. So what I have here is I made my own tomato sauce to put on pasta. I ran out of pasta, so I've just got the sauce, and I'm constantly thinking about what can I add instead of what can I restrict, because we don't care about calories. One thing that I've learned from a professional doctor who actually works at Zoe, sounds like I'm sponsored by them, I'm not, I just love them. One thing that she found is she did a fascinating study on almonds, and actually you think that calories on the back of packets are always correct, and technically they are. However, the way that your body absorbs certain calories means that the calories on the back of the packet are not technically true. For example, almonds, if you have whole almonds versus like ground almonds, although they have the same amount of calories on the packet, you are actually absorbing different amounts of calories. When they are ground, because they are ground, you are able to absorb 100% of the calories that they said on the packet. However, if you have whole almonds, because of the shape and the structure of the almond, there's actually a 30% calorie wastage, which means that you do not absorb 30% of the calories that are in that whole almond. So things like this just makes me realize that you shouldn't rely on calories. So one, I find every time I tracked my food, I ended up just feeling like there was so much more food noise, whereas if I just focused on trying to eat as many plants and whole foods as possible, this just made it so much easier. And I'm not saying cut out all of processed foods, cut out chips, cut out cheese. No, I've got loads of cheese on here, but it's trying to balance it out and trying to eat mostly whole foods so that you feel fuller for longer, because the more protein and the more fiber you have in your meals, the more satiated you will be, aka the fuller for longer, and the better you will feel. So like I said, I always focus on what can I add to a meal instead of what can I take away, because we don't care about calories here, and that just makes your life so much better, especially that mindset shift of what can I add to my plate. I personally found it really refreshing compared to all of the other dietary content that I see. Okay, what can I do to make this meal more healthy and to help me digest it? So for example here, I have made a tomato sauce. One, I made it from scratch, and two, I added in loads of vegetables. So I think it has about 8 vegetables in here. We've got garlic, we've got onions, courgettes, leeks, cannellini beans, carrots, tomatoes. I don't know if there's anything else. But anyway, that's 8 different types of food as well. And what counts as well for your gut microbiome to make it healthier is spices and things like that. So I'm also adding some fresh basil here on top, just because I love the flavour, and also it adds to those plants. So again, I'm thinking, what can I add? A nice bit of basil to make this meal even healthier. And no, there's hardly any calories, so great. The next thing I'm thinking is, what else can I add to try and get my balance of 30 different fruits and vegetables every single day? So we've already got 9 on the plate, and now I'm going to be adding the Zoe Daily 30. So if you don't have time to cook all your different meals, or you feel like you just need a quick easy win to get those 30 plants in your daily diet, the Zoe 30 is great, because essentially it's a whole foods gut supplement. Is packed with over 30 plants. It's rich in fibre and minerals that support your gut health and add flavour and variety to your plate. And essentially, just sprinkle it over. 1, I'm obsessed with crunchy foods, and 2, it's just that extra fibre boost and extra plants boost. And it has loads of random things like baboa and buckthorn, which is something you probably wouldn't be eating in your diet, so it just gives that extra variety. So that's where I would start. So now this is super balanced and packed meals. By the way, I would usually eat it with pasta, but I'm trying to think also, what swaps can I make to make this meal healthier, as well as what can I add. So that's my second thing, is what swaps can I make? For example, here, okay, I don't have it today because we're leaving to go on a flight tomorrow, so I'm not gonna buy more. But instead of normal pasta, I've been opting recently for chickpea pasta, or some sort of pea pasta, because 1, this is gluten free, so I don't feel as bloated afterwards, and 2, there's a lot higher protein. Typically a normal pasta will have around 12 grams of protein, but some of these pastas have around 18 grams or 20 grams of protein. And they're just an easy way to boost that protein count, especially for me because I'm vegetarian. So it's like, again, what can I swap in, or what can I change that still tastes good, still makes me feel like I'm having a normal meal? Pasta with tomato sauce, which is a staple and amazing, but what can I add, and what can I swap in to make it a little bit more healthy? Sometimes as well, I'll add like a big dollop of Greek yogurt as like something to add as an extra protein source on top of my meal. And now I want to talk about actually eating your food. I genuinely feel like abs are made in the kitchen. I never really understood that saying for such a long time, but I genuinely feel like abs are made in the kitchen. And why I believe that is research actually shows that exercise, unless you do it over a long period of time, like 36 months, it doesn't actually have an impact unless you are a professional athlete or you're really active in your job. Most of us live too sedentary of a lifestyle for activity to make a big difference in the way that we look. It's mainly how we eat and what we eat. There's been loads of studies on this, I'll put it here. So abs really are made in the kitchen. So those are the kind of things that I'm thinking about when plating up a meal. What can I add and what can I swap? And also another thing is, I don't restrict myself anymore with absolutely anything. No foods are off limits, but I do understand that some foods are better for me than other foods, and that's fine. But one book that I really love, and I know a lot of people don't like this wording, he said it's called The Good, the Bad, the Healthy. And essentially it's a book that names different swaps and different things that we can be doing in our diets to be able to improve them one little bit at a time. And it also gives swaps for people on a lower budget, medium budget and high budget as well. So it's not just taking into consideration the people that have a lot of money to spend on food. But one thing in that book the author mentions, and I do think really resonated with me, is if you're a wellness girly and if you're trying to be your best self and live your hottest, richest, fittest life, then why are you going for massages? Why are you going to the gym? Why are you doing all these things? But the one thing that you do, aka eat a meal 3 times a day, you don't prioritize what you put in your body, aka you don't prioritize foods that don't have pesticides. You just want to get the cheapest food. For example, me, I'm not gonna lie, I always used to shop at Lidl and shop at Aldi, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, I would never opt for like organic foods or anything like that. Whereas now I'm trying to be more conscious and trying to think, okay, is the food that I'm eating actually going to benefit me internally? Because am I looking after future Elena? Because if I am, then I should be thinking about those things, and I should be spending that extra £30 on a food shop instead of going out and having that meal for an extra £30 at the weekend, because overall the £30 extra spent on the food in the supermarket will end up giving me more joy, because I'll have a healthier gut microbiome and therefore I'll have a healthier body and mind. Studies show if it takes you 10 minutes longer to eat a meal, then you are more likely to eat less calories and you digest things better, and therefore you're more likely to lose weight. And I know you're thinking, okay, I've heard everyone say eat slowly. Me too. And I used to be the fastest eater in the world, like genuinely. I was so fast. We once did I did like a little science experiment around my kitchen table when my grandpa was there. So my grandpa, bless his soul, he's passed away now, but when my grandpa was alive, he was super healthy, super slim, really prioritized exercise, was very clever. He was a doctor, and he was just the slowest eater ever. Like, so slow. It was so annoying. When everyone wanted dessert, we had to wait for our grandpa, but it was cute. And I did an experiment once when I was waiting for him, and I watched everyone around the table and counted how many times they chew. My dad was the fastest eater. He had like 5 chews. I had like 7 chews before I swallowed. Then my mum a bit more, like maybe 18. But my grandpa chewed on average 47 times before he swallowed. And research shows and studies show, and speaking to nutritionists have told me that when you chew, you actually start digesting 30% in your mouth, and your digestive enzymes start there. So it starts when you chew, and actually the more you chew food, the more you naturally produce GLP-1, which I'm sure everyone's heard of, which is like the new weight loss drug at the moment, that everyone's always talking about, but it actually is a natural compound that is created in your body when you digest. So the more you chew, the more you produce that enzyme, which then helps you be fuller for longer, digest quicker, digest better, help you stop being bloated, and therefore you will be able to feel better in your body. So trying to eat as slowly as possible. How I did this is learning how to intuitively eat. And you're probably thinking, what the fuck is that? I've heard it so many times, and you probably think, oh, I've been intuitively eating all the time, aka my body wants a donut, I'm going to eat the donut. You can think about it like that, but also how I like to think of intuitive eating is actually thinking and trying to get your conscious brain to recognize your unconscious patterns. So it's really, really hard to lose weight. And that's because mentally your brain is working against you. There's a lot of neural pathways in your brain, and the more you do a habit, the more something is subconscious to you, and therefore your brain, funny thing is, your brain is actually working against you when you're trying to form a new habit or trying to form a new routine, because your brain has neural pathways, and the more you do a habit and the more you do something, the more ingrained this neural pathway becomes and the stronger it becomes. And because your brain is always trying to reserve calories, because anything new in your brain is perceived as a threat, so it wants to try and conserve the energy and be able to fight off anything new in case that it is an issue or a threat. So that's a really important thing to note when you're starting to try and lose weight or you're trying to eat intuitively, is learning that your brain is against you, and that's okay. I was talking to a fascinating food psychologist, I'll put her link here, the other day, and she was saying that actually what you need to do is recognize that trying to lose weight or trying to tone up or whatever your goals are is super hard, because your brain is actually working against you, because it wants to try and go down the neural pathways that it's already built, because it's so much easier for your brain. It doesn't want those threats, it doesn't want those new things. So if you recognize that and you think to yourself, okay, I've fallen off the bandwagon, it's hard, because so many people say, oh, weight loss advice, and talk about weight loss advice, and they say, you know, it's easy. It's not easy. And if you recognize that yourself and you think to yourself, oh, this is actually really hard, and you're doing a fantastic job, Elena, then you're going to more likely achieve that thing and more likely become that thing later down the line and stick with new habits that you're building. And one tip and trick that the food psychologist actually taught me, which I've been doing recently, when you feel yourself going into a binge cycle and you're stuffing granola into your face and you're like, help me, like you can't stop, but you want to stop. Actually, this little trick really helped me. There's 2 tricks. One, say out loud, would a healthy person do this? Or would future Elena with the dream body, do this. Talk to yourself and say it out loud. If you say it in your head, it's not quite convincing enough, but it stops the pattern and you're able to push out of that binge restrict cycle. Another thing that the food psychologist told us is if you want to lose weight or you want to stop that restriction, stop that binge cycle when you're in it, is actually labeling your anxiety or, you know, your binge person as someone else. So for example, you'd be like, Jane, shut up. Like, shut up, Jane. Get out of my brain. I'm fine and I'm smashing this and I don't need to eat this granola anymore. Both of those tricks have been working well for me recently in so many aspects of my life. So definitely try them out because your mindset is so important. Encouraging yourself and speaking to yourself positively is such a big win. And also talking out loud or talking or naming it will help you stop those restrict cycles. So how I trained myself to intuitively eat, essentially intuitively eating is when you, most of the time you're eating using your unconscious brain. It's just a habit, it's just the neural pathways that have already existed. And a lot of the time you're not conscious about what you're eating. So what intuitive eating does is bringing together your conscious mind to your unconscious mind to be able to understand when you're actually full, because most people eat far beyond the times that they're actually full and they're satisfied, because your brain is so used to just eating on autopilot. So how I trained myself out of this, it sounds really boring, but it does work, is sitting, eating without any distractions, no phone, no social media, no one talking to you, no watching TV, but sit there and eat your food in silence and actually look at your food, look at the mouthfuls you're taking and eat slowly and be conscious about what you're eating. And you'll be shocked at how full you actually are so much quicker. And it will take some time and it will take some effort because it's uncomfortable to sit there in your own thoughts and your own silence. But trust me, you will slowly realize you don't need as much as you think on your plate. And because you're eating slower and being more conscious about it, again, you're probably chewing your food more. Again, you're probably registering it in your conscious brain, so therefore you're more likely to eat less. Another trick to eat slower is by having your water bottle, I don't have mine right now, or having a glass of water and slowly sipping your water throughout, as this helps. Another tip is only putting your portion on your plate, and then any other portions or anything else that you've cooked, put it straight away in a Tupperware for tomorrow and put it away so that you're not tempted to get seconds. If you are tempted to get seconds, which is totally fine, at the end of your meal, take 3 or 4 sips of water at least, wait for 5 minutes, and then see if you're actually hungry for another portion, or whether it's just habit, or whether it's just your body craving something that you don't actually crave and you're actually just dehydrated. There's so many things that you're probably just automatically not even registering, but these are just small habits that you've picked up over the years, and don't worry, it's not you, it's your unconscious brain, and your brain's working against you sometimes, so don't let it discourage you. And if you do have those sweet treats, good for you, have it. You've got to think about it as an 80-20 rule if you want to actually make this a lifestyle shift, rather than just having this as another one of those random diets that you don't end up sticking to. I hope all those tips and tricks help. One other thing that helped me lose my 9 kilos was walking more. This is an exercise that most people can do if you're in an able body. I set myself a goal of walking 10,000 steps a day around March time last year. And since then, I genuinely have done that. If I have missed a day, I've made it up throughout the week. So I average 10k steps every single day. Even if like one day I did 6, then I'd have to do 14 on another day, for example. And now, since the beginning of this year, I'm trying to average out between 10 to 15,000 steps every single day. I've done this by getting a walking pad, so I do my work on my walking pad and also walking the dog and just going out and about here and there. So those are my tips and tricks on how to intuitively lose weight as a normal person who's always binge and restricted, who's always yo-yo dieted, who's always yo-yoed with their weight. I hope that helps. This is everything that I've learned from neuroscientists, from actual nutritionists, from doctors. Everything that I've learned, I've put it all in this video, so I hope that helps. So if you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like, subscribe for more tips and tricks on how you can live your hottest, richest, fittest self, because each week I'll be putting out some videos on small tips, tricks, habits, routines, anything like that, to help you live your hottest, richest, fittest life and become the person that you've always envisioned that you are. See you next Sunday.